Might help if you push the right button, wouldn't it? Yeah, they do work a little bit better when you turn them on. I got 5 minutes into my intro. I didn't have it, it wasn't even turned on. So recap here real quick. I'm gonna button up the little 70 series bikes. We got the ATC70 and the CT70. We're gonna kind of just bring them up to a kind of a stopping point. We're gonna push them to the side. We're gonna get back to our three-wheelers. I know a lot of y'all been waiting. Got the 350X engine over there. Been working on it all week, finding out parts, waiting on some parts. Otherwise we should, we would have it back together. But we've got a lot to talk about with that engine. This is going to be a lesson for everybody. This is going to be a big lesson for me. Yeah. When you buy someone else's project, even if it's running, be leery. Just, that's all I'm going to say. But tonight what we're going to do is we're going to get some seats on these bikes, and we're going to talk about kind of cost versus investment and things like that. What's it really going to cost you? Can you do it cheaper? Should you do it cheaper? And that's kind of where I find myself today. Is I got a little egg on my face. I was going to try to get a seat for the ATC a little cheaper. And once I assembled all the parts and started thinking about it, it was the wrong move. And let me show you what I did. So I was able to source a replacement foam for the 85, which is a little different than your early ATC70, so keep that in mind. Look how nice that fits. It just sits on here like it's meant to be, right? And I found a really, really good quality seat cover. And I started running the numbers, and I knew this going in, and I was gonna save about $65 doing it myself. And I got to thinking about it, and I got to looking at it, and I ended up really studying this pan. I got it off the bike finally, and I started looking at it. And what I was gonna end up with was a really, really crappy pan. And I was gonna end up investing quite a bit of money in that seat and that foam. And I just couldn't do it. Yeah, you could make it work, and I could have maybe, tried to weld some metal on here and scab it together and bolt it down, and nobody's gonna know. But I was gonna know, and it's not what I wanted to know, you know what I mean? So I decided to scrap the whole idea. I actually contacted the manufacturers of the foam and the seat cover, and they've got 100% money back refund. It's a new thing with eBay. Not affiliated with them, just letting you know. So I contacted them, told them, hey look, I've kind of changed my mind. Is it all right if I refund this? And they said, yeah, send it back, not a problem. So to those companies, I appreciate it. But while I was on eBay, eBay is flooded with some pre-made seats. Let me show you what I'm talking about. If you look on there, there's gonna be about 40 that say they ship directly from Vietnam. This is nothing against Vietnam. It's kind of a distance, just so you know. But then there's also a small American company actually right here in my home state of Florida. I haven't even opened this yet, but I wanted to show it to you. Look at this. This is freshly packed just the way it came in. I peered inside the box and knew I was dealing with somebody that knew what they were doing. You could tell sometimes just in packaging. So $60 difference. I've got a brand new metal pan, reproduction of course, but still nonetheless. Sorry, it took a little longer than I thought to open it. We got bubble wrap. We got rubber bands. It's like a booger, you can't get rid of it. We got a big plastic bag. And we've got a perfectly wrapped, including the bracket, studs, and bolts, hardware, whatever you want to call them, ready to go on a bike. And I can't tell you how much better that looks. You can see for yourself. That's what that bike needs. That's just sitting there. We're gonna put it on. It's not a big deal. It's like 6 little bolts. But $60. I didn't poke a hole in the cover. I didn't have to stretch it. I didn't have to fix another pan. Now I know somebody saying, well, you can buy another pan. I could have bought another pan. If I would have bought another pan, it was $5 difference between a new pan, a new seat foam, and a new seat cover. $5, I let somebody else build it and send it to me. I get new hardware this way that I wouldn't have had the other way. And they didn't give me the seat. I paid cash for that seat. I'm just sharing with y'all. Sometimes these are the hurdles that I come across, and I know you do too. And sometimes you gotta really put pen to paper and go, should I fix what I have, or should I just kind of scrap it and start over? And for me, I should have scrapped the pan originally and just bought the replacement. It was recommended to me by Preston over at This Old Trike. We talk quite regularly, and he said, just get the one already done. And I'm thinking, no, I can save mine, and you know, that'd save me like $50. I was wrong. So there you go, write it down. We're gonna put that seat on tonight, and we're gonna get that one set up. But I got something else I want to show you. It's been a seat getting day. Let me get my knife out. If you leave the house without your knife, you are not dressed, even if it's a little small one. So for the CT70, I reached out to my friend Josh Eule. You've heard me mention him before. He owns a business in South Florida called Vintage Honda Minis, and he specializes in these little CT70s and even in the clones. ATC70 CT70 Z50s. If you're into the little mini bikes, if you're into this, you know, that mini culture, you need to know Josh. He does excellent work. He's got a YouTube channel. It's a lot of how-tos and I mean really in-depth how-tos on everything from mounting a two-piece wheel to rebuilding an engine. So be sure and check him out. Again, his name of his business is Vintage Honda Minis. He's based out of Orlando, Florida. Y'all need to look him up. So I needed a seat for this, and I knew that this CT70 was going to be somewhat difficult because it's not a Honda, it's a clone. And the clones are close. They have adapted a lot of the same parts. And so I reached out to Josh. I said, you know, what do I need to do here? I need a seat. My pan is just not worth saving. Really the same problem on both of these bikes. And it's a common problem. These bikes get ridden, the seats get cracked in them, they get left outside, they quit running one day, and then that crack starts absorbing the water, and the water rots the pan out. And you can sometimes rebuild your pan, and I've done that many times, and it just depends on how soon you find the bike and in what condition is the pan in. The problem with this one was not cosmetic as much as it was structural. For me, if you look close to the pan here on this bike, Josh informs me that this is set up as the 12-volt system. They copied the 12-volt, which is the later model CT70 Hondas. But if you look really close, and I don't know if you saw it in the earlier video, but structurally this seat is compromised. Here, especially where this bracket and this mount is, all of this is just, it's nothing. This is supposed to be metal, and it's just not. And so it works its way all over. And so for me, wanting to make the nicest bike I can, this is somewhere I feel that it's worth spending the money. This rust is going to be here, and every time you pull the cap and put fuel in it, a little bit of rust is going to fall down. Every time you ride it, rust is going to hit the ground. It's going to fall down in the frame, and that's going to put rust in places you don't want it. So for me, this is certainly a good place. The seat on all of these bikes is one of the first things you look at. You know, I can overlook, we can overlook a lot of the wear and the paint and things like that, but the seat is just something that just catches your eye. Look how nice that little ATC70 is with the seat on it, how much better it is. I know it's got a plastic tank on it. Everybody knows that. And yeah, an original tank would be better. But for now, look how much better it looks just with the right seat on it. You look across my shop, and the seats is what stands out the most on a lot of these machines. A good seat goes a long way. And so what we've got here, thanks to Josh, he was able to help us out. He sourced us an aftermarket reproduction seat. Now, I know the color looks a little strange with the red, but I think once we get this bike where we want it, or where I want it, I think the tan seat's gonna look good. He's able to find, again, a very much complete seat. It comes with all the hardware. It's brand new. It's going to bolt on exactly the same way. And then that brings us up to the next part of this equation. The cost that you spend for parts is only part of what it actually costs you. The aggravation, the easeability of installation goes a long way. And I know a lot of DIYers, including myself, I always kind of put that at the end and I go, well, I'll suffer through. I'll work harder. I'll make it happen. And we do that as DIY people. You know, we take it upon ourselves to learn kind of upholstery in this situation, or welding, or whatever we need to do to get a task done. But we sometimes don't put enough value on having others that know what they're doing do it for us. In this case in point is exactly the same thing. The cost of this seat was double what the cover cost. You get a pan, a foam, the seat cover, and it's already assembled and it's shipped to your door and it's brand new. Now I will tell you that this seat pan here is plastic. That's one of the reasons it is as inexpensive as it was. But we're already dealing with a clone here. We're not, you know, trying to trick anybody and tell them it's a Honda. It's a clone, and that's fine by me. But as for the blue seat on there, I know it says Honda. It is a metal pan. You're not going to be none the wiser on that. That is a Honda seat for a Honda bike. It's as close as you're going to get to original equipment. So I'm going to take a few minutes and I'm just going to kind of put this on time lapse. We're going to swap these seats over and then we'll finish up what we're talking about here. But a lot of times the investment is really back into yourself. Even when you pay somebody to do something for you, how much nicer is it to go out to the shop, bolt a part on, you know it fits, you know it's right, and you're done. You don't get aggravated. You're not fighting with rusty hardware. You're not fighting with missing hardware, it's a pleasure to work on your project. Remember, these projects are supposed to be fun. It's not supposed to be work. I work all day. I come home, I want to have fun. I don't want to come out to the shop and just fight for every, you know, inch that I go through these projects. That gets old really quick. I'm going to come out tonight and I'm going to bolt on 2 seats, and I know it was a little bit more money, and I'm not losing sight of that. I can't just afford to replace everything, but there are certain places I feel it's very important to put your money, and the seat is one of those things. You're going to ride it, you're going to sit on it every single time you use that bike. Every time you look at that bike, you're going to see that seat. Why not have a nice quality seat for you, or if you're selling a bike? There's nothing better than when you pull a bike out to sell to somebody and they have a nice new seat for them to sit on. It's like handlebar grips. It kind of, for me, it's the same thing. You're in constant contact with the seat and the grips every time you touch one of these machines. That's where I put a lot of value, because that's where your comfort needs to be. You know, we changed the handlebars on the CT70 because not only did the homemade riser look bad, but it changed the handlebar angles to the point where it wasn't comfortable to ride the bike. There's no point having it if it's not comfortable. So let me get started and let's see how we end up with the finished product. All right, here's a little tip. On the left here, on the left side post, you've got a spring. This is where your latch mechanism is. It's got an actual indentation cut into this post, and that indentation needs to face the front of the bike. There you go. All better. Just like that. I'll let y'all in on a little secret. I know somebody's going, man, why did he put that brown seat on that red-ish bike? Well, because that red-ish bike isn't going to stay red. I can really envision the antifreeze green, you know, that really, really cool green that they had on these with that brown seat. I think that'll give it a nice look. I know I can get handlebar grips the same color. It's kind of a leather color. I think it's going to look really sharp. The nice green, chrome handlebars, new fenders. That's going to be one smooth looking bike right there now. That's all there is to it. And that's the difference. That's the difference in coming out to the shop and getting hot and getting aggravated and sweating and trying to rebuild something that really, really is just too far gone. I mean, there comes a point in time where you just have to call it and say, we can't keep going with that. You know, we can't get there from here. So could I have? Yeah, I've got the skills to do it. I could have scabbed a piece of metal on there. We could have pop riveted or welded it or whatever, but I just don't think it was the right. And for the time and the money invested, we're done. We're ready to move on to another project. We can look back at our bike and go, hey, look, that looks great. And it's going to look even better once we finish this. I'm letting y'all know, right, cat out of the bag. It's going to be antifreeze green. And pretty much that's really all we lack. Headlight green, body green. We'll clean up the rear fender. We'll probably replace the front fender. And I think that project's going to be done. I mean, mechanically, it stops good, it runs good. You know, we've got some electrical to work on. We don't have any turn signals. That's really not a deal breaker for me. I don't think I'm going to be using turn signals anyway. But I really think that's going to finish off this project and we're going to be able to enjoy it for what it is. So now let's get started on the little ATC70. All right, just like that, one evening, bolt-on parts, y'all. Sometimes it's just that easy. Sometimes it's better to spend a few extra dollars. In this case, you know, it's about $35 probably total buying this seat already assembled like it was, and this seat was even cheaper. You gotta factor in your time. How many people do you know started a project and they just get burnt out? And they get burnt out with simple tasks like this, like maybe they made a decision to rebuild a particular part. Maybe they thought they'd save a few dollars, but those few dollars cost them weeks. Maybe it cost them weeks and a lot of money, and they still ended up, like me, buying the seat. It was still the right financial move for this bike. Whether I keep it, flip it, or whatever I decide to do with it, it's still a better product than what I could have probably put together. And it took me all of 15 minutes to put it on, and most of that was washing the plastic and painting the brackets underneath. So your time is worth a lot more than you think. And always keep that in mind when you are opting to rebuild something. And both of these bikes, they both suffered from the same problem. Both of the pans I felt were unsalvageable. Could they have been rebuilt? Yeah, but was it worth the effort to do it? No, it wasn't. And then once you make that decision, once I decided that those pans were unsavable, then it was automatic to buy a complete seat already upholstered. It was a no-brainer at that point. Sometimes you just have to do that. Sometimes you have to put the money where you're going to see it, in this case, and feel it. And both of those are important, especially if you're fixing something up for yourself or a loved one, or maybe even if you're selling it. It looks 100 times better with this nice blue correct seat on it than it did with just a metal pan. And if I run across a metal tank, I'm going to continue to put this bike back the way it was. But that's for another story, that's for another video. Today it's all about seats and how you spend your time. I can't tell you how, in order to keep a project moving forward and not lose interest on it, sometimes this is the right decision. Sometimes it's spending a little more money. Now, I don't mean to go out and rebuild the entire thing, and I'm not telling you to buy cheap parts. If you're going to buy parts, get good quality parts. If you can save the original, that's an option. There's always the secondhand or used option. You could have, I could have went down that road. I probably could have found a seat not as nice, but complete. You would have probably found that it wasn't that much of a savings, and then those seats are used. And then they would have still needed a cover. And then you would have been going chasing, yourself right around that same tree, finding a cover, finding a good quality cover, being sure that you can get that cover on straight, get the seams to line up to where when somebody walks in, they'll go, wow, that looks great. It looks like it's supposed to. And when you're doing custom stuff like that, like this bike, we can do whatever we want. If we want to put a brown seat on it instead of a black seat, so be it. Originally, this had a black seat down the side with a gray top. At least that's what I could tell basically from the remnants that was still left on that seat. Now, Josh did send me a black cover. If I don't love the brown, now I've started off with a new pan, a new foam. I've got the right strap that goes across it. It bolts right onto the bike, and I can put that black Honda cover. We do know it's an aftermarket cover, but it does say Honda on it. We could make this, and we're starting off better than where we were. We already had a rotted out pan on the CT70. That had to be addressed. There was no way around it. So I hope you enjoyed that. I hope you kind of see the positions that you find yourself in and some of the many decisions you have to make when you take on a project. That's why I talked about in an earlier video about writing down what you see your project in a finished state, or maybe in the phase one. Both of these vehicles, both of these bikes are up running mechanically. They've got good brakes, they start, fuel filters, air filters. I mean, mechanically they're set. Now for me, I feel, is the time that you would blow them apart and really take them to that next level. If you want to detail out the engines and paint the chassis and source an original tank, now that you've got all the mechanics figured out and solved, whatever those problems were, new tires, and you can ride them right now until those parts come in, and then you can break it down in different phases of tear down. So you're not out your money and your bike, for a long period of time. You can tear it apart one weekend, take your time, put it back together, and have it back up in a month. That's a whole lot better than tearing one apart and taking you a year. We've used these bikes, we've played with them, you've seen me out riding them around, and they're just a lot of fun. And so when you do take them to that level to blow something apart, and I mean down to the frame, it's a commitment, and it's a snowball. It really can be. You can just start throwing money and parts at a project, and before long, it won't look anything like it did when you started. And sometimes that's a good thing, and sometimes it's not. So that's it. That's the story for the night. I hope you enjoyed this one. It's Seats 101. In both of these options, buying a complete upholstered seat ready to go on, I felt was the best plan. So as always, thank you for watching, sharing, and subscribing. It's 9 o'clock, and it has got to be 100% humidity in here. It is hot. So y'all have a good one. I'll see you next week. Take care.